God, because you do all things well and all things are done well by you. In Jesus' name, let everyone signify amen by waving at me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So over the past several weeks to, like they say, the past month or 2 months or however long it's been, we have been dealing with a series entitled Live to Serve and Serve to Live, because I find that in church and in to say, the Christian community, we have too many people that do not know, all right, or if not that, they don't care to know what it is like, all right, to serve, or if not that, they have the wrong mentality when it comes to serving, all right, they have the wrong mindset, they don't think about it correctly, they, or if not that, they were never taught, all right, because in the old church, a lot of times, if you had a gift, they automatically threw you in position, all right, and they was like, fend for yourself, figure it out yourself, they just threw you right on in there, if you, and then for some, even if you didn't know how to do it, they was like, they would anoint your hands and then have you go right on in, all right, you couldn't sing a lick, I mean, you couldn't sing nothing. You, even if somebody sang in a bucket and told you to carry the bucket that they sang into, you couldn't carry the bucket, but they would get up there and say, "You gonna go ahead and lead devotion." I mean, there are several stories, live stories of people that did not know how to play. All right, they were not a musician at all, had no type of gifting in it, short and simple. There's a gospel jazz artist named Ben Tankard. All right. From what I understand, his story is he didn't know anything about playing at all, but he was at a church service and the preacher prayed over his hands. And then next thing you know, anointed his hands, and he's been playing ever since. All right. He's been playing ever since. And that's what happens sometimes when it comes to, all right, people who are put in position, all right, of leadership, all right, being a servant leader. They may have a drive, they may have an inkling, they may have some type of, gifting or something like that. And they are automatically thrust in or pushed in, all right, to a position, and without any proper training and expertise. And a lot of times it's learn on the job, learn on the go. You got to figure this thing out as you go along. But now it has to get to the place where in the church now, where we have to do some training, we have to do some teaching, we have to do some instruction, we have to do some correcting, and all of this stuff, because the day and the time of, all right, you gotta burn it, go ahead, jump on in. Nah, those types of days are long gone now. They have to be gone now, because ministry is so vital. All right, ministry is so vital. It's so important. All right, because sometimes, yeah, you may have a gifting, you may have a mentality, but you don't have the heart. All right, because a lot of times, some people may have, the schooling. All right, let me put it that way. They may have the schooling of being a pastor, but they don't have a pastor's heart. All right, and a pastor's heart is not something that school can actually teach you. All right, that's something that school cannot train you, cannot show you. All right, and so in this whole series, we've been dealing with all of those types of things, all right, when it comes to servant leaders and serving, because like I said before, one of the biggest things that I love that the Lord gave us was we can't be selective in our service, all right, especially if the situation is a right and conducive situation. All right, we can't be selective in our service. Even when it comes down to it, we can't be selective in our forgiveness. All right, and all that stuff. There are so many different highlights and things that we have went over the several weeks. That, like I said, it's just so much in there. It's so much in there, and I thank God for all that we have covered. So on tonight is the last part of this whole series that we have been dealing with, live to serve and serve to live. All right, because we have to deal with our position. all right, our position. But also, let me just put it this way. The title of the lesson is, Can I Read Your Palm? All right, can I read your palm? And before we get ahead of ourselves too much, I want us to come up off of mute. All right. And we see that Elder GP has his light years behind him, like he's in the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars or something. So he's light years away. So since he's light years away, that means he's going to give some forward thinking answers on tonight. All right. So, with all of that being stated, let us get ready, all right, to come up off of mute and answer these questions, whether you are on Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook Live, all right? Because the first question on tonight is this: Do the actions of your hands tell what's in your heart? All right, let me ask the question again. Do the actions of your hands tell what's in your heart? All right. Somebody come up off of mute. All right. And answer that question. Do the actions of your hands tell what's in your heart? Uh-huh.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I'm going to dive in here. I guess it depends on the action of your hands. Because if you are disciplining a child in love, it doesn't feel like it, but it is. So it may not feel like the actions of your hands are showing love, but they very well could be showing love because you're chastening the ones that you love. Sometimes we strike out in anger, but sometimes we strike out in love as well. So the actions of your hands, depending on what that action is, it very well could be the actions of your heart.
Okay. All right. All right. Someone else?
Yeah,
Because I got a companion question with that one too.
I think that sometimes that hand gestures add inflection to what's coming out of our mouth. So sometimes we can be, if we're talking angrily, our hands will like show how angry we are. Sometimes if we're just trying to get a point across, our hands can just accentuate what's coming out of our mouth. And the same thing, and the vice versa. Like, if you're like in a solemn moment, your hands have a little bit of a softer type of gesture or meaning, a visual. They add visual inflection to the audio.
Now let me, since you done dove into the next question, let me go ahead and pose both questions so that we can have it both at the same time. Because the next question, and I'm going to repeat both of them, so then everybody can answer to either one. Because the next question is this: should the words that come out of our mouth or come out of your mouth dictate the position of your hand? Now you see why I had to ask the companion question. All right. So the two questions that we're dealing with right now, the first one is, do the actions of your hands tell what's in your heart? That's the first question. And the companion question is, should the words that come out of your mouth dictate the position of your hands? Those are the two questions that we're dealing with on this morning. And Sister Georgette, Deaconess Georgette, they're looking at me like, what? All right. So let us deal with that.
I mean, Bishop, I guess we're talking about body language with our hands. And as we're talking about serving, if you're saying you're here to serve someone, but your hands are in your pockets, how can you serve?
Oh, that's a
right? So
good
when you
point.
think about the position of our hands and the words coming from our mouth, they should line up because we also read body language. So if you're saying, I'm here to help you, and if somebody falls, but you don't reach, because your hand goes out first to reach out to help someone and pick them up, then is
Mm,
what you're saying valid?
mm,
You know what I
wow.
mean? So
Yeah.
our hands are the, like when we get ready to fall, our hands go out first. Our hands are, I don't want to say the first defense, but that's what people see. When we're angry, like everyone talked about, our hands will indicate more than our words how we feel. You can say I love you, but your hand flip like this will tell somebody, well, not really, I don't. We read with our palms, we read with our hands. So it is the first, I don't want to say it's the first sight, but it's what people read other than our eyes, our words. So I believe when you say something, it should line up with the position of your hands, depending on what you are saying. Like Elder
Mhm,
Frazier talked about in regards to discipline, you're telling somebody I love you, but your hand is papping. That don't line up. But
mhm.
you know what I mean? But it
Like,
is
love you.
you are telling somebody I love you, but they're reading it differently. Even though your words are saying it, they're feeling it differently from your hand. So I guess it's, excuse the motorcycle, but I guess it is the situation that you're in, and will dictate that. But I do believe your words and your hands should position
Mhm,
together so that it can be clearly read and not confusion.
mhm. All right. All right. Because like I stated, I'll read the questions again before somebody else chimes in, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Zoom. The first question is, do the actions of your hands tell what's in your heart? That's the first question. And the second question, or the companion question, is, should the words that come out of your mouth dictate the position of your hands? And as it was already stated, if we're here to serve, how can you serve with your hands in your pocket? That was a really good point. All right. Somebody else have a view or a point that they want to put out on the table?
Bishop, I was thinking even from another perspective, sometimes we serve not fully understanding what the action is or what the task is. So sometimes our hands are moving, but we're not lining up from our words or our thought process because, we're just doing it in the motions or we're just doing it because it's good to do, even though we might not mentally think or we agree with it. So
Mm,
sometimes they may not line up in that way because it's just like, oh, okay, it needs to get done, so I need to do it, even though I may not agree with it personally. So
mm.
should they line up? They might, but that doesn't mean that they always do.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm laughing because I love how, like Bishop Webb used to say, how a plan comes together, because that you'll see why I'm laughing when I get to the next question. But someone else, someone else
Um,
want to chime in.
yeah, I do. I just wanted to agree with my nephew that sometimes um the actions of your hands, they won't tell what's in your heart. Well, I can speak for me. So if
Mm,
I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it whether I want to or not, because I said that I was gonna do it. Right. I
mm,
get my word. So if I'm saying I'm gonna help or I'm gonna be there or I'm gonna do it, at the time I might mean it. But when it's time for me to do the thing, I may not. Right. So
mm-hmm,
there's like a duality there, right? So I just think that depending on who is looking at my body language and what lens they're looking from when they're looking at
mm,
my, it will
s-
show a different story. So there is
mm,
a way to me to measure that, right?
mm,
Because
mm-hmm,
I'm like my sister, if you read my facial expression, you're going to be confused, right?
mm-hmm,
If you try to look at me and determine what you feel like I feel is important, you're never going to know.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes the one who is looking at the hands can't really tell what's in for me, for my heart, because
Mm-hmm,
they don't, for the most part, may not look like you think it should look, or what's ordinary or what's
yeah.
whatever, right? Because I can very well not like you at all. You
Mm-hmm,
get, but if you fall,
yep.
I'm gonna help you up because that's the thing to do. You know what I'm saying? That's just
Mm-hmm,
human decency. So you can
yeah.
misread or misinterpret that
Yeah.
on
I was
on
hoping you were going
either
there.
side, right. So it's really what what's in our heart is important. what you perceive
Mm-hmm.
hands to be doing is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because I was hoping that you were going to deal with misreading, misinterpreting, because as you go back to, like you said already, if you have a preconceived notion, if you have an issue with the person already, all right, or you have a problem, no matter what they do, how they do it, you already have something in your mind towards them already. So, like you stated, it will cause you to possibly have a tainted view towards that person. So, any type of movement or any type of thing that they do, could be tainted because of that person's view, because of that person's view, either of the situation or of whatever's going on. So yeah, the hand gestures and all that other stuff can be misinterpreted, but it also can be infected and affected, as Sister Shauna said, by the person's view of the situation, because they will not be as forthcoming, all right, or as helpful, all right, in the situation, because in their heart and in their mind, they really don't like the situation, but they still gonna go ahead, and try to help. But the intent, you'll be able to see the intent, because you can kind of read somebody's body language when they really not into it.
Well,
When they
wait,
really
Bishop,
not into it.
can I interject? I promise you.
Yep. Go
For,
ahead.
for me, what I'm saying is, if I don't want to do it and my heart is not in it, you wouldn't know. My hands will get to work. That's just who I am as a person. So
Get the
regard,
whole 7.
no, I'm just saying, if I give my word and I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it because I want to do it the best way I said I would do it, because that's what I said I would do.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, I can make an assumption, but I know deep down inside of me, I can't tell what somebody's being real or not. I could just tell what
Mm-hmm.
my experience is, but I would just ask. You get
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
that's who I am. So yeah, I'm not saying that somebody wouldn't put their whole heart into it, because I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for me to measure, but
Yeah.
I do feel like the part where I was saying it depends on who's looking, and you don't have to have an issue with the person. It could just be
Yeah.
from my own past experiences. If from my
Mm-hmm.
past experiences that have nothing to do with this wonderful individual that I'm trying to help, they may
Yep.
say something that throws me completely off, and it really doesn't have anything to do with them. It
Yeah.
may be me. So I'll do the work, and then I have to talk to, this is what I really do in real life, y'all. I have to talk to why I have these feelings if this person didn't do it, or whatever the case may be. Like, that's just, I remember one time I was ranting and raving, and First Lady said to me, so I was like, I don't know why somebody don't do it like this. And she said to me, everybody don't think like that. This was like 10 years ago. I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like within 10 years, I didn't get it. Like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand. And it wasn't anything major, but I always reflect on the way she said it to me. It's just like, everybody don't think like that. So
Yep.
sometimes, just my own perception of, like, I don't, like, because I'm quick. Like, how come everybody else is not quick like me? Because everybody's not quick like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So sometimes it's the perception of what we
Mm-hmm.
think somebody should do, or how they should be, or how their hands should be positioned. We don't know. That's just my opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. All right. All right. Anyone else? Because I'll go on to the next question. Because the next question is this: do people work for or serve a dictator out of love or fear? All right, let me ask that again. Do people work for or serve a dictator out of love or fear? Somebody come off of mute and answer that question.
Yeah, I mean that that question answers itself. If it's a dictator, nobody likes being dictated and told to do so. If they're doing it, it's out of fear. Um, out of reprisal of what will happen if I don't do it, and how the person is already making me feel by mandating that I do it,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not up to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'd say fear. I don't think anybody loves being dictated to
Mm-hmm.
in
Okay.
that fashion.
All right. All right. Someone else.
Bishop, it's not always what's being said, it's how it's being said.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes when you say some things, you can't unsay them and they can't be unheard. You can't pull those words back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't pull
Yeah.
those words back.
Yeah. 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 And then too, sometimes the other side of it is sometimes you gotta, like we said before in the previous lesson, uh, you have to listen to what the person is saying and not get caught up in how they are saying it,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes they are getting very emotional about it, or they're getting very um, tense about it, intense about it, or they are angry, or whatever, and we end up missing what they're saying because we're reacting to how it's being said. And so we just have to balance that out. And it's very hard to do. It's very hard to do because we're emotional people. We act and react according to how it's coming at us a lot of times. All right, someone else. Because well, before somebody else jumps in, Sister K, she put on there, sometimes your body language is different from what's coming out of your mouth, because we are nervous or our focus is off. Mm-hmm. All right, and that's going back to the previous question. And Minister Lonell, he put, sometimes how we act is the defense mechanism we show to guard our heart from the hurt and pain that we have sustained because we refuse to embrace the people of the world again. All right, all right. But let me continue with the question that we have on the table. Do people work for or serve a dictator out of love or fear? Love and or fear.
Bishop, I'm gonna say it could be either one because some people like stuff like that. It just brings to mind people like Putin. Is that how you say
Mm-hmm.
his name?
Yes.
Yeah, and Trump, they Trump likes him. He likes him because of what he does and the power that he holds and the fear that he instills in people. So I
Mm,
think some people do. They worship people like that. So
mm,
love, I don't know if I go that far. They love them, but yeah, I think they love the power that they have and they
mm-hmm.
love that they can actually accomplish that. And so I think yeah, it could be either way.
All right. All right. All
Oh,
right.
Bishop, I would say it could be out of all of them, but it could be
Okay.
out of neither. So it could be out of obligation. Because I know me, speaking
Oh,
on me, it could
that's a
be out of
third one.
obligation. Because if I sign up for something and I never worked with that person before and they're a dictator, I will complete my job because that's what I signed up to do, because that's my
Mm,
word. But it might make me cautious working with you again if that's how you are. And
mm,
I, depending on how you are, or how we made it through that process, can determine if I'm going to work with you again or not. Now, based off of just ministry, I might still work with you because ministry is my heart, but I'm going to be leery and I'm going to always have a backup person to watch what's going on, to cover
mm,
myself and cover anything just in case something ever happens. I always
mm-hmm.
have somebody looking out for me.
Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that we have to be that way in ministry just to add a little more weight to it. It's a shame that we have to be that way. All right. But let me say, Minister Lonell, to the question that's on the table, he said it's out of fear more than love. Fear because I don't agree, but there are there are cases where people totally agree with that person, and they give their life because they have the power to make it happen. So, and then also, Sister K, she put, relationship is key because God is love. I have been in a position where I serve. All right. Someone else want to add to this question, which is, go ahead.
I want to pigtail off of Sister Des because I agree where she said it could be both or neither. Where I would say it could be neither is because you might be looking at the bigger, like she said, out of obligation. If you sign up to do something, you're going to look at the bigger picture, regardless of what the person may do. And sometimes I can say, even for myself as an example, I will put myself in a situation, not even worrying about the dictator, but for the sake of getting what needs to get done. If I'm looking at the bigger picture, this needs to get accomplished. So if I have to work around the person, if I have to suffer around the person, and that's a wrong way to say it, but in a way, suffer around their dictatorship to be able to get what needs to get done. Sometimes people will use that situation to their advantage to get what needs to be done. And then at the same time, you could say both, because you may have a fear for the person, but you have a love for what you do. So you're not loving particularly the person, but you're loving the opportunity. You're loving you're loving your task. You're loving the bigger thing. And like in ministry, sometimes you don't want to deal with certain people. You don't want to. It may not be the most unfavorable situation, even in work. We may not like all of our managers, our bosses, our coworkers, but we love our job. So we're gonna go ahead and deal with the suffering and deal with the fear of that person to be able to get what we need or be able to accomplish what we have and be able to add to our repertoire, our resume.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Someone else before I give my thoughts.
Yes, hi. So I just, ever since you started this series, it brought me back to something that occurred with me years ago, right after I had Esther. I was working at the hospital, and I remember at the time I had a dream before my maternity leave wasn't about due. And Jesus came to me in the dream and said, oh, he was talking to me about something, but he said in the midst of it, oh, I gave you something. And when he told me he gave me something, he showed me behind Esther's door was a bag of rice. And the rice represented grace. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And he was like, okay. Then he showed me the building of the hospital I worked at. He was like, I can't go in. And he was like, but I want you to bring this in for me. And after he said that, he showed me I was in the marketplace, but it was dark. And there were all these people lined up in front of their tents, and they had empty plates in front of them. And I had to fill each of their plates up with grace, with this rice he gave me, which represented grace and all. And so I didn't understand what it meant at first. I mean, now I'm saying grace, but at first I thought, all right, tell me to preach the gospel. So I preached the gospel at work. But as I went along, the years went along, I realized it was grace because I worked in a very hard environment, a very racist environment. And I realized that I had to forgive these people. And then, it was my attitude that would show them the love of Christ. And they knew, me as a Christian and stuff. But the grace was forgiveness with everything that they do. Because I remember the first time somebody did me wrong, before I knew what was happening, Jesus said, forgive her. And then I realized that she didn't, and I had to forgive her. The second person was hard for me because I really helped this person forgive her. And I really had to pray and forgive her and stuff. And that's what it was. But it was constantly giving the grace of God to people through the time. And I remember before my time ended, there was one person in particular, man, it was a struggle. And I had to literally go up to the front of the church and ask God, like, you need to empower me for this one right here, because it was going to be hard, but that's what grace was for Christ to me, was giving out grace to those who we work for, like was my managers, coworkers. It was, I preach, but it was the constant grace, forgiveness, and love of God was what was in that message, though. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, the whole series is really, like you said, is food for thought, and it's really for time of inflection. All right, really, really a time for us to inward. All right, also take inventory of ourselves. All right, because as we kind of move along, unless somebody has something that they want to say or something that they want to add to the question. All right. Because we have to check our motives. All right. We have to check our motives. All right, because the only point we're dealing with on tonight is position matters. Position matters, because the question that's being stated on tonight is, can I read your palms? All right, meaning the palms of your hands. Can I read your palms? And the reason why I say that is because we're coming from Colossians 3:17, where it states this, and whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God and the Father by him. But it's mainly that first part that we have to look at. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, all right, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus. And the reason why I say, can I read your palms, or the reason why the lesson is entitled, Can I Read Your Palms, is because depending on the position of your hands will determine your, let me see, how you are looking to do what needs to be done. All right. Because if your hands are up and I can see your palms, that means you are in a position where you're looking to help. All right. But if your palms are down and I can't see, that means, all right, there is a strong possibility that you're in a striking position. All right. Because sometimes, depending on what it is, you cannot serve with your hands like this. All right. With your palms down. You always, in order to serve, a lot of times your palms have to be up, because this is to say a symbol of helping. You're looking to help. All right. Because as we have stated, a dictator is one that will say, do as I say, don't ask any questions. All right. A dictator will be one that will give a bunch of rules and regulations that they won't even, to a certain degree, follow themselves. They'll be one that won't even show up themselves. All right. They'll be somebody that'll be up on the hill while everybody else is down in the trenches working. But a real servant leader, all right, will be one that will be right there in the trenches with you. All right. Their hands will be just as dirty, if not dirtier, than yours. Why? Because they are there to work. They are there to help. They are not there to cause confusion. They are not there to cause disruption. They are not there to cause chaos. They are looking to say, what can I do to help? How can I make this easier? What can I do to change this around? What can we do to change this around? Like we stated several weeks ago, a person that has their palms up is someone that is solution oriented instead of problem centered. All right. They are looking to say, okay, what can I do? How can we make this work? How can we get this done? What needs to be done? What can I do to take something off of your plate? How can I help you? How can I be that Aaron or her to help hold up the man or the woman of God's arms? How can I do that? What needs to be done? They are always looking to help. They are always looking to serve, even as a leader. Even as a leader, they're not looking to just dictate and say, go do this, go do that. No, that's not their mentality. A real servant leader is somebody that is looking to help in any and every way possible. They are looking to see, what can I do? Keep repeating it, but what can I do to make this easier? All right. They are listening to the people that are working underneath them. They are not just sitting somewhere else and looking down on them in this type of manner. No, they are right there with them. They are sitting up there laughing with them, crying with them, joking with them, working with them, digging ditches with them, painting with them. They're doing all this stuff right there with them. And when, as a servant leader, when you are doing that, the people will have no problem with serving with you, because they see you right there in the trenches, in the dirt, in the mud, right there with them. And let me put it plainly, because sometimes a servant leader, a true servant leader, will outdo, and they, to a certain degree, should outdo those who are just servants. They should outdo it. They should be, to say, the first one there, the last one to leave. They should not be the last one there and the first one to leave. That should not be the case. They should be, people should see them actively involved in ministry. They should be actively involved. Now, let me get back to the position of your palms, the position of your hand, because one of the things that some of us don't understand, or some of us don't realize, is when you go out into the wild, all right, or some of us have dealt with a dog, all right, if you have your hands like this and the dog is coming at you, the dog is going to be, to a certain degree, unless you are scared of dogs, I'm telling you now, the dog, if you're like this, you have your hand out like this, unless it's a rabid dog, the dog is going to become very, very timid. It's not going to be aggressive because your hand is like this. And that's why the dog will sniff your palm, sniff your hand to see whether or not is it okay. Even out in the wild, the same thing. That's why you see a lot of times when you see trainers and stuff like that, their hand is never like this. Their hands, they're not coming down. It's not coming down like, because that will automatically make the animal, all right, and I'm not calling us animals, but it will automatically have them to be in a defensive, all right, mode, because this is an aggressive, all right, gesture. This is an aggressive body language. Let's go back to it. Why? Because you're coming like this. But if you're coming like this, they're like looking at you. Because why? You come in with your hands out, but your head down. All right? You are looking. You're coming to say in a humble position. You're lowering yourself so that they can sit up there and look and be like, oh, they're not coming at me aggressive. Because even let's take it away from the animals. Even if you have a little baby, you sitting up there saying, oh, come here, little one, come here, little stink, come here, little boo boo, and you just like this. And they just coming, all that stuff. But then when the tone of your voice and the position of your hand changes, they are very timid about it because your hand is like this. All right, unless you like some of them sneaky parents, because there's some sneaky parents that'll sit up there and have a real calm tone, because they want the child to come on over. They real calm about the tone, but then all of a sudden, when the child comes over, all of a sudden it's a total change. It's a total change because you're like, I told you not to, because now you catch them off guard. You caught the child off guard, and so then next time when they come, they're gonna end up being like, I know last time I came, their hand was like this, and I got popped for something that I did. So let me kind of take my time and see whether or not, test the waters. And that's why the child or the animal will become very timid. When they come to you, they'll sit up there and have their tail between their legs. All right. If your hand is up like this, all right, because why? Because they don't know. It's a sign of aggression. And a lot of times when you look at it, you have a corporate mentality when it comes to ministry. Your hand is like this. Your hand is like this. When you have a corporate mentality in ministry, your hand is like this. It's always to a certain degree where I set the rules, I put the regulations in place, and you do what I say. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's why it's, let me just put it plainly. That's why it's dangerous when we have, to a certain degree, people that work in corporate America, all right, work in certain areas in church, because they don't know how to separate the two. They don't know how to separate. And even in that, sometimes they don't know how to leave the corporate at corporate. They don't, because that's their mentality. And you can't bring that same type of mentality, depending on the situation, to church and effectively work in ministry. Now, there are some areas in ministry where that will work, but for most areas in ministry, no, that won't work, because another corporate mentality is, I want representation without representation. And some of y'all have heard this from me before. I want representation without representation. What do you mean by that? Meaning, I'll give my money, all right? I'll put this in place, but I ain't showing up. I'm not going to be there. You'll know that my presence is there because you see my donation, but my presence is not there. Let me tell you something. For those who are a servant leader, they realize that their presence and their presence is as important as the other. Both are important because we are in this together. And when you say, you know what, I'm going to give, but I'm not going to give. I'm going to give them my money, but I'm not giving them my time. That's when your hand is like this. Yeah, I may be giving out the money like that, but your hand is like this because I want to be on the golf course. I want to be on the tennis court. I want to be in Cabo. I want to be somewhere else. Just put my name on the bottom of it. That's all there is to it. That's some of that mentality. But for those who are really working in ministry, it's like, no, I'll put my hands there. I'll put my money where my mouth is, but I'm also going to put my feet, and I'm going to put my hands. I'm going to put my body. I'm going to put everything that needs to be in, because I'm all in with what needs to be done. If I need to run up 12 flights of stairs because the elevator broke down, then guess what? The Lord going to have to give me the energy to run up 12 flights of stairs, because I'm just going to have to run up them stairs, and I'm just going to have to do what needs to be done, because it's determined by the position of your hands. The position of your hands sometimes will determine the how your heart really feels. The position of your hands can sometimes tell the position of your heart, because you're looking to serve, you're looking to do, you're looking to help, you're looking to say, let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing going. Let's move out. What do we got to do to push it? What do we got to do to push it? What do we need to get done? Because let me tell y'all something. Because with Aaron and Hur, yeah, they had to sit there and hold up Moses' arms as he sat there on the rock. They could not sit up there and think about, oh man, how am I going to sit up there and hold his arms up and hold my arms up too? Nah, they was like, if Moses dropped his arms, we're going to lose this thing. So we got to do what is necessary to hold up Moses' arms so that we can continue to win this thing. I'm not going to be concerned about, my shoulders. I'm not going to be concerned about my back. I'm not going to be concerned about my feet. I'm going to do what is necessary to help Moses, because if I help Moses, then we end up winning. But if I don't help Moses and his arms get tired, then we're going to end up losing. Let me ask you something. What's the position of your hands for your servant leader? What's the position of you when it comes to the elder, when it comes to the pastor, when it comes to the bishop? What's the position of your hands? Are you more concerned about your own personal physical well-being, or are you concerned about the well-being of the church, of the ministry? All right, because I'll tell you right now, listen, if the head starts to get discouraged, it affects the whole body. If the head ends up getting tired and burnt out and worn out, it affects the whole body. If the head has all these issues and these problems because of the body not doing what needs to be done, because their palms are down instead of their palms being up, then it's going to affect and infect the body. Let me make it plain. Some pastors in days gone by and even in present, they did not die, all right, because of physical problems, stuff that they did not do themselves. No, some of them passed away because Aaron and Hur walked away, and the bishop, the pastor's arms dropped. And so now they're trying to keep their arms up. They still trying to do what needs to be done in ministry. They still trying to deal with their wife. They still trying to deal with their husband. They still trying to deal with the kids. They still trying to deal with the job. They still trying to deal with all this stuff. But those who are supposed to help and be there to support, all right, to be that servant leader, to have the palms up, they was just like, I'm done. I done had enough. And then next thing you know, that pastor, that leader ends up getting worn out and they end up passing away, unfortunately, because it weighs heavy on their heart. It weighs heavy on their heart. So let me ask you, for us, all of us, you on YouTube, you on Facebook Live, Zoom, what's the position of your palms? Can I read your palms? Thank you, Deaconess Georgette. Can I read your palms? Can I read your palms? Can I read and say, oh, like they used to do back in the day? Oh, this one means you're gonna have a long life. This one means you're gonna have a long life. Oh, this one means right here. You see how this goes across here? That means you're gonna meet this man or you're gonna meet this woman. You know, what's the position of your palm? What's the position of your palm? Are you looking to serve? Are you looking to serve or are you looking to dictate? Mm-hmm. What one are you doing? How you are doing? Let me ask that. Because like we already stated, some people, you know, they love a dictator because they don't have to be accountable. They get told everything that they got to do. They're not held accountable for anything. They're not. They're like, okay, well, you tell me what needs to be done. You tell me this, you tell me that. Listen, in doing that, that's another way that you wear out a leader. Let me go another way. Because if they got to tell you everything that needs to be done all the time, that means they got to keep thinking and they got to keep pushing. And you just going to come back and be like, what needs to be done? Hold up. Like I stated before, if you see me pick up the broom, pick up the dustpan, pick up the vacuum cleaner, pick up the paintbrush, you already too late. I should not have to, a elder, a leader, whoever it is, they should not have to pick it up because we should be thinking in that way automatically. What can I do? How can I do it? What would they be thinking about? How would they handle this situation? I had some other things. Do you know or do you have the tone? All right. Do you know the rhythm of the ministry? Mm-hmm. Or do you know the heartbeat of the ministry? Do you know the heartbeat of the leader? Do you know the heartbeat of the servant leader? Do you have their sense? Mm-hmm. Do you have their heart? Do you have their mind? So the reason why I say that is because even if they are not present, they will still be present. Why would you say that? Because they will be present through you because you already have their heart, you have their mind, you know what they're looking at, how they would act and react to a certain situation. You would have that. But for some of us, that's not some of us. Because we have our own mindset. We have our own mindset. And if we have our own mindset, then we're not connected to the ministry. We're connected to what we want to do, how we want to do it, and when we want to do it. And it's like, no, you can't sit up there and operate in ministry that way. You got to sit up there and say, okay, how's this going to get done? How would Elder Smith handle this situation? How would Elder Geis handle this situation? How would Mother Schuler handle this situation? What would Bishop do in this situation? What would Bishop Young do in this situation? What would they do? What would they do in this situation? Because if your hands are in this position with your palms up, You're always looking to serve. And like I stated already, with you working that hard, with us working that hard in ministry, people don't mind working with you. You won't get as much pushback as you normally would when you are a dictator. My God from Zion. That's why dictators get so much pushback, because they're forcing the people to do what they want them to do. But when you're serving with them and they see the love that you have for them, they see you working with them, you won't get as much pushback at all, because they see you right there working. It really, I'll stop with this. It really kills me when you have corporate, big wigs that put all of these things in place, but they never ask the people that have to do what they put in place. They never ask them, how is it working? Because corporate, or their board or their governing body, get together in this think tank and they say, well, I think this is going to work. I think this is going to do well. Okay, you go and you try to do all that, but did you ask the people that have to do what you, or let me flip it another way. Are you going to go down, get up off of your high horse and go down and help them and work with them and see how does it work? Yes, Sister K, thank you. In sync. Are you in sync with the ministry? Are you in sync with those who have to do, all right, the things that you're talking about? Are you in sync with them? Are you lining? Come on now. Because if our palms are up, we're looking to serve. We're looking to work. We come every Sunday morning looking to work. We don't come to sit down. We don't come to sit back, because we know this is not, this is ministry. This is ministry. This is what needs to be done. This is how it needs to be done. I'm through for the night. Does anyone have anything that they want to say? Anything that they want to add? Something that came to mind? Because I'll take the silence as a no. All right. So in that, listen, my name is Bishop Lamont Brown. I'm a pastor of Faith Baptist Tabernacle here in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where we are evangelizing to the family while building disciples. I just want to remind you of this one thing. It's already done. Just got to catch up to it.